Hello and welcome to another episode of Coach and Coffee. If you don't have your coffee, you should know by now that you should, but if you don't, go get it, come on back, pause the video in the meantime. I'll be ready when you get back. I have a plain black classic mug today, nothing fancy. If you hear a bunch of sounds in the background, it's just a bunch of mowers going. I don't control when they come, and I gotta get out here and film at some point. It's been raining a lot lately. Which is nice because it's actually nice and cool and breezy out right now. The sun is still shining, but it's not burning hot. Great weather, perfect day. If you live in Virginia, or at least the middle of Virginia, get out and train because this is awesome, fantastic weather. Today I want to talk about, well, it's hard to say this in a specific way. It's not like a very specific topic, but it's kind of, we'll call it load bearing. So in running, you're bearing your own load, you're carrying your own weight as you run along. And so in military, rucking has been a thing for decades and decades and decades and decades. You have to carry a big pack on your back, whether that's a rucksack officially or a backpack or just gear strapped on, whatever, weapon belts, things like that. The military's been doing that for decades, if not centuries, if not longer. Militaries have been doing that. So rucking is essentially hiking and or jogging, because you can't do a full out run with a bunch of weight on your back, at least not for an actual distance. But you're at least hiking with a bunch of extra weight on your back, and that's kind of had a resurgence or a coming out, I don't know what you want to call it, doesn't really matter. In recent years with like endurance sports coming out, there are like races out there where you can go and ruck for 100 miles, with like a 20-pound ruck or a 30-pound ruck or a 50-pound ruck. I don't actually know what all the different races have because it's different for everyone, or a lot of them. Like Savage Race has partnered with GoRuck, I believe. I apologize if I'm wrong there, but I believe that's correct. And so the day before a Savage Race, they'll have like a multi-hour, they're pretty long, I think like 8 to 12 hours. Again, I could be wrong, but general ideas here. Event where they're rucking along and they do some obstacles and exercises and stuff, but they're all carrying like a weight vest or a ruck pack or something like that. So it's load bearing. Everything you do is load bearing, whether it's carrying your own weight or carrying additional weight on top of your own weight. But what we need to consider with this is the effects it has on your body as a system as a whole. So if you're new to running, the reason why you are told, or you should be told by somebody out there, or you should be able to find it somewhere, that you should ease into running and start like at either low amounts of time or short distances to begin, is because your body is not used to the forces and loads that are placed on it when you start running. So if I had never run before, or I'd never run, let's say 5 miles before, and I go out and run 5 miles, the amount of strain and force that I put on my joints and muscles compared to anything it's ever experienced before is an extreme difference, like an insane amount. There's equations that people do. I'm not a physicist or mathematician, so I'm not going to even try and run the numbers. But for instance, I read an article one time with someone who worked on the physics ends of things and the amount of force being applied and everything. And essentially it was, if you went out and did, I believe it was a 10-mile run, and you weighed 15 pounds more than what you weighed now. And in the example, the guy was like 160 or something pounds. So like how much force would be placed on their tendons and ligaments if they weighed 175 pounds versus 160 or whatever. It was hundreds of thousands of pounds of force over that span of distance, and that's an insane difference. Like, you don't think, you're like, oh, 5 pounds is nothing. Well, it's not 5 pounds once, it's 5 pounds per step on each joint, ligament, tendon, muscle, everything that's supporting you. And when you're running, you only have one leg on the ground at a time. So all of that stress is put on a single side at a time. So it's not even like 5 pounds divided by 2 because you're on both legs the whole time or something like that. It's 5 pounds per side, per step, all the way across. Like I said, I'm not a mathematician or a physicist, so I'm just going to leave all those calculations to you out there who are. But the force difference is insane. So things you need to consider. How heavy are you while you're running right now? If you are carrying additional weight that you do not need to be carrying for your goals, then consider dropping weight. As long as you're staying in a healthy weight range for your size, age, blah, 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 etc. As long as you're staying healthy, you may consider dropping some weight. It's going to reduce exponential, virtually, amounts of force put on your body over time. And we're not diving into this whole issue, but that is just part of the reason why people who are morbidly obese run into all sorts of joint issues, because their body's carrying an immense amount of weight and their structure isn't strong enough or big enough or whatever to carry that weight long term. So if your goal is to be an ultra runner and maybe you are carrying 10 pounds that you don't need to be carrying, it's body fat you don't need, or maybe it's muscle mass you don't need for your goals, consider dropping some of that weight as long as you're staying in a healthy range. For people rucking, certain jobs require that. Like if you're in the military, you're going to ruck, essentially. Maybe not in the Navy, I'm not sure about that. But if you're in the Army, the Marines, you'll do a lot of rucking. So that's unavoidable. And what you need to do in those circumstances is build up your muscular strength and endurance, so that you're taking as much force off of your joints as possible, and your muscles are taking that. Your muscles can take a beating and recover, your joints can take a beating and recover, but your muscles are better at it, and they will last way longer than your joints will. And if you're someone who's just getting into rucking for the fun of it, cool, go for it, but don't start by putting on a 30-pound rucksack and going miles and miles and miles, or for hours or whatever. You need to build up to it just like you would with running, because although you're not requiring as much of your body as far as stabilization when running compared to walking, you are still putting an extreme amount of extra force on your muscles and ligaments and tendons and joints and all of that with every step you take, having a 30-pound pack on your back versus not. Those 30 pounds will add up. So those are important things to consider. The amount of weight you're carrying on any type of leg endurance event is going to matter. Cycling is a no impact. It is virtually no impact sport, so that's not one that's going to matter as much. Obviously, you're going to be faster if you're lighter, less wind resistance and everything, as long as you have the muscular power and endurance, whatever. We're not going there. Running, walking, any type of leg carrying movement, weight, the load you're carrying will matter. And that's why, and I mentioned this in a recent video, like I am a smaller build, and as a smaller build I am built very well for endurance things, because I'm carrying virtually no extra weight than I need to be great at longer distance and endurance events. But because I'm an OCR, I'm carrying more muscle than I would if I was just a pure endurance runner. It's specific to my sport. If I were an ultra runner and only an ultra runner not doing obstacle courses, I would let my upper body lose some muscle mass, because I don't need it to carry obstacles, complete obstacles, or anything like that. Luke, on the other hand, is built bigger than I am naturally. He's taller than me. He's my younger brother, but he's taller than me and built bigger. It's very sad. Actually, he's built the biggest of all 5 of us boys who grew up together, so I don't know how that worked out, but genetics. And so his build type and his personal goals just lean far better towards more strength, short distance, like sprint type efforts. It's still endurance because it's, you know, longer than 30 seconds or whatever, but more high intensity, heavier, powerful movements, races, exercises, all that type of stuff. So, you know, but when he was working towards like getting better at OCR just specifically, and not some of the heavier stuff he is now with the high rocks and stadiums and stuff, he dropped a ton of weight. And I used to be much bigger. By much bigger, I mean like I got up to like 173 at one point, and I dropped a bunch of weight to get better at ultra running. It kind of just happened as a part of the process, but it needed to happen either way if I wanted to be very good. So manage the load that you are carrying on your body. Get it to where, try and find the most ideal point that you possibly can, to where you have what you need to complete the tasks extremely efficiently and nothing more. You obviously don't want less either, because then, you know, you're going to be slower, weaker, whatever. So manage the load. Yeah, I mean, I think I just can't even really emphasize enough how people don't even consider that, and it's not like it should naturally just come to your mind. I mean, I don't know that it would naturally come to mind if I weren't involved in these things and wasn't a trainer and all that, but manage the load. Don't carry excess weight you don't need. That's something, you know, when ultra runners carry like hydration vests with them, they practice with it to make sure that they're only carrying as much as they need and nothing more, because every pound is more stress, and more stress means fatigue happens faster, and the faster fatigue happens, the slower you become long term. So, and that's true of short races also. If you're carrying 10 extra pounds and you're trying to complete a Spartan Stadium, a Spartan Sprint, a Savage Blitz, a High Rocks event, whatever you're trying to complete, if it's a short event and you're carrying 10 extra pounds, you're not going to do as well as if you cut those 10 pounds and had what you needed to perform with. So keep those things in mind. Manage the load. If you don't have a reason for carrying extra weight, cut the extra weight. It's just better for your health long term. I talked too long, the camera shut off. But yeah, it's just better for your health long term to manage the stresses that your body is taking. So if you don't need to carry extra weight, don't carry extra weight. If you want to, that is up to you. You make your own choices. I'm just telling you the physical reality of things. You make your choice, but make smart choices. That covers it for today. I'm going to enjoy this beautiful weather today. I think my wife and I are going to go have some fun fishing and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll catch you next time on Coach and Coffee.